Welcome to the selfgrowth.com show. My name is David Riklan, and I'm the founder of selfgrowth.com. Today, we'll be discussing reincarnation, why reincarnation is real. To help us understand this topic, I'm excited to interview Elsa Byskov. Make sure to listen closely. We're going to be sharing a lot of information today. Before we get started, I want to take a couple of minutes and share some information about Elsa. Elsa Byskov is an international authority on the spiritual science of Martinez. The Danish philosopher, visionary, and mystic, Elsa's written 7 books covering profound aspects of Martinez, this worldview. The work of Martinez has been described as the most complete revelation of spiritual insight ever disclosed to humankind, and it's spiritual nourishment for us, living here right now in modern societies with a scientific outlook. It appeals to our intellect, and it answers all the big questions in a logical and intelligent way. And you can read more about it by going to Elsa's website. You can see about her books and all she's doing. It's newspiritualscience.com, www.newspiritualscience.com. All right, Elsa, welcome to today's show.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to jump right in here. I have a lot of questions, and I'm going to delve very deeply into this topic.
Good.
First one I'm going to jump into is, why are we not identical to our physical body? So let's start with that.
Yes, because there's more to us than just the physical body. I mean, a lot of people can see auras, and it's becoming more and more acceptable today that we also have an aura around our physical body. And this aura is really a field of energy, and it is also identical to our consciousness. So apart from the physical body, we have a body that we can call a spiritual body. And in that spiritual body lies all the information about the person we are. It's not as if that everything is in the brain, as seems to be the way that that modern science looks at it, that everything is in the brain. No, it's not. It's in the aura. And as I say, the aura is a reflection of our consciousness. And our consciousness consists of what Martinez calls spiritual matter or ray-formed matter. But it's really the same as what the science of physics called sorry.
That's okay.
Electromagnetic radiation. And it is it's an energy. It's a field of energy. And it is this field of energy that gives life to our body. And it is quite clear that things are like that, because when we have a body that is dying and it's at the hospital, and we have the monitoring devices, and the lines go up and down, and as soon as the spirit pulls out of the physical body with the energy field, then we see the flat line. So once the flat line appears, the spirit, the energy field has left. And this energy field is not destroyed or ceases to exist just because it is no longer attached to a physical body. It moves on to a spiritual plane, and it is the law of attraction that sees to it where it goes. And after a good long rest, it will then come back and create a new physical body in the womb. So that is sort of very shortly put how it works. So we are not just our physical body. What we really are is our consciousness. And let me just underline that nobody has ever been able to prove that nothing survives the death of the physical body. That has never been proved. And Martinez clearly points out that our consciousness, with all the information about the person we are, the person we have become through our many lives, survives the death of the physical body and moves on. And that is also the field of energy that reincarnates. And may I just underline here that many near-death experiences can confirm this. They say they left their physical body. They could look at the physical body from above the hospital bed, and they could see with this spiritual body. And some of them moved on to the spiritual plane, but in all cases, they were told it's not your time yet, so you have to go back into your physical body. So it is very clear. I mean, this is underlined by so many hundreds of books have been published about the near-death experience. And they all confirm that I had a body, they say. I had another body, a body that was like an energy bubble or an energy field. So this is why we are not identical to our physical body. There's more to it. There's more to us.
It's interesting, just from a philosophical basis, the concept of consciousness as being part of us has been something that's discussed for millennium. Yeah. Yeah. And also the belief in many religions, the belief that this consciousness, or let's call it a spirit, whatever you want to call it, is separate and can leave the body, has been around for thousands. This belief has been around for thousands of years.
Yes.
So the premise is basically that our consciousness, what we consider our consciousness or what we consider our awareness, is manifested in a sense as an energy. Yes. And an energy field. So that's the belief, that it manifests itself as this energy field. Some people see it as an aura, as one of the words that you use to describe it. And then after our physical body ceases, this could move on as a separate, this reincarnation is the concept that this moves on as a separate entity.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, science totally agrees here, because it's an energy. Energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed. This is what the science of physics tells us. So there's nothing new in this. This is simply it is. We have an energy field. Energy is something that is eternal, or whatever we want to call it. If it cannot be destroyed and it cannot be created, what is it then other than eternal? So this is who we really are.
So when you say who we really are, is this the kind of the core of who we really are? This consciousness, this energy, that's, yes. And can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and how that works?
Yes, I can, because we all know that we have something that we call I. I am, I run, I do, I hop. Mm-hmm. We all could say, right, call ourselves I. But science does not really accept that we have this I. It says, no, the I is in the brain. But we don't say the brain hops, the brain is going on holiday to Greece, the brain likes pizza. We all know that we have something inside us which we call I, and this I is really the core of ourself, and this I is who we really are. But around this I is this I holds a lot of information about all the things that this I has learned, our morals, our habits, our level of intelligence, what we like and what we don't like, what our whole personality and our character traits, everything that we are, everything that we have become is lying in this field as electromagnetic radiation, which can hold, and everybody knows that electromagnetic radiation can hold a lot of information. So this field has all the information about the person we have become through our many, many lives. And that is why we are all so different. We are so different because we have all been through a lot of experiences, a lot of sufferings, a lot of ups and downs through our former lives. And all this is stored. Martinus calls the place where this is stored, he calls our fate element. And the fate element is where we take our fate element with us from life to life. So what we learn in one life, we take with us into the next life. And this is obvious when we look today at YouTube with these children who play the piano. They're only 4 or 5. They play the piano as if they've never done anything else, and they haven't, because this is information and talents that they have developed in former lives that they take into their new life. And because the talents are something that we can only achieve through practice. So when we are reborn, we take our talents with us. And look at those children. They play the piano like a virtuoso. And Martinus says it takes 3 to 4 incarnations of daily practice to reach this level of virtuosity. It's not something you can just sit down on the piano and do from one day to the next, obviously not. And this goes for all our talents, everything that we're good at. It's things that we have practiced and perfected through former lives.
So What's interesting for me is I've seen many, many stories of people. You mentioned these young kids who are virtuosos, and I hear stories of people who might wake up after something happens and they can suddenly, they speak a language or they know things that they shouldn't know, that they've never experienced or touched.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hundreds of books, probably hundreds of books, thousands and thousands of case studies on this. Why
Yes.
is it that most people are not in touch with these past lives or incarnations from the past, and only a small percentage of people really ever even get a taste or a touch of that?
That is really because they are ignorant about the simple fact that the person you are today is a result of all your former lives. You have all your former lives with you in the shape of the person you are today. It doesn't matter that we cannot remember them actively, but the person we are today has been shaped through everything we have been through thousands of lives. But just because we cannot remember them actively, we think that they are not with us, but they are. We are a result of our former lives. And I know that people say, yeah, but if I had lived before, I want to be able to remember that. But there's a reason why we can't remember that, because we have enough. I mean, if we were to remember hundreds of past lives,
Right.
we would be completely confused. We have enough to deal with in one life, and we can't. And also, our level of memory is not very good. So at this point in time, so we cannot even remember what we did when we were 2 or 5 or whatever. So we cannot actively remember our past lives, but many children can actually remember. Some children can. And you know, Ian Stevenson, who was a professor at the University of Virginia, he gathered examples of children who remembered past lives. He gathered more than 3,000 examples of children who remember specifically who they were, where they lived, what they were called. I mean, there's research that confirms this. And also, ask any 3-year-old, who were you when you were big? And they will be extremely happy to answer this question, because they want to be acknowledged as a ripe soul, not as just some child who has just come into this world. But as they grow, normally when they reach the age of 6, 7, or 8, they will have forgotten. But at the age of 3 is when you should ask them.
All right. Now, one of the things I've heard is this concept that's illogical to only live once, to have this concept. Why is it illogical to only live once? What does that mean?
Because we are on a journey. We are all on a journey of evolution from a primitive being. We started down in the plant kingdom, then we moved through the animal kingdom, and then into the primitive human being. And we are still, to some extent, pretty primitive. But we are all on our way towards becoming real human beings. And this is what Martinez underlines again and again. We will reach the kingdom of the real human being in about 3,000 years. And a real human being is a being that cannot lie, cannot cheat, cannot steal, isn't greedy, isn't jealous, isn't...
Okay. That's an ideal person.
Yeah, an all-loving being that can only emanate universal love, and who is completely compassionate and can feel empathy with other people. And we're all on our way to that. And obviously, we are eternal beings. And eternity, I don't know if you can imagine how long time that is. That is so long that nobody has any idea about it. But eternity we have to spend all that time doing something. And Martinez is the first ever in the history of humanity has revealed how we spend eternity. And this is actually a symbol that I have on my first book, Death is an Illusion, on the front cover. And this explains how we move through, of course, it's quite a complicated explanation, but it explains how we move through eternity from primitive beings to advanced beings. Like we have a few examples of people who had reached the real human kingdom. Is Jesus. He is, of course, the main example. He emanated universal love. Even at the cross, he was able to forgive his executioners and say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. And Martinus was a real human being. And we are all going that way, only we haven't reached it yet. But we're on our way. For every life we live, we evolve, we become more moral, we become more loving through our sufferings, through everything we experience that shapes us into becoming more and more a real human being. And that's why one life is not enough. Why would we live one life? What's the point?
So I like this concept, this kind of self-actualized real human being to move towards. Are there things that we can do in this lifetime to move towards it?
Yes, there is definitely. There's a lot of things we can do. We can weed out our consciousness. And like if there's somebody we don't like, we can start to try to like that person. We can stop being judgmental. We can stop gossiping. We can stop talking badly about other people. We can really weed out our less developed sides. And so there's a lot we can do when we realize that, when we become conscious about the simple fact that this is a journey we are on, and we are on our way to an absolutely fantastic destination. Martinus says we cannot imagine the amount of love that exists in the universe, and that is what we will reach when we reach the real human kingdom. We should really do everything we can to weed out our less developed sides. I mean, we all have less developed sides. We might like to gossip about somebody or talk badly about somebody behind us, like, did you see that? And did you hear? And all these things will they will hold us back in a more primitive stage. And that is why it is a very good idea to to weed out those tendencies. And Martinus was once asked, what can we do if we want to? Is there a sort of a yoga thing we can do? And Martinus said, no, well, you can study what I have written, and then you can see if you can live via that. Yeah, but they insisted and said, yeah, there must be something you can tell us. And in the end, he said, yeah, you can pray for your enemies. And or really also delete the concept of enemies in your mentality. Don't have any enemies. Look at everybody as other human beings that are also struggling on this journey. We're at the point where we are today. We're all on this journey. There's nobody's better, well, some have come further, but that is just because they started at an earlier point through the physical plane, through the physical reigns. So there's nobody is sort of better. Right. Everybody will reach that point. You see, it's just that it's going like this.
So in essence, there's a few things that I want to mention over here. So first, I just want to remind people that Elsa's written a lot of books on these writings on Martinus, and you can find a lot of this information on newspiritualscience.com. So I just wanted to remind everybody, newspiritualscience.com.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I'm hearing very clearly is that this goal, so we talked about this eventual self-actualized full human being that we're creating, as almost love is the core.
Yes.
It's love that's emanating from us, and the overriding principle and overriding core of us developing, whether it's in this lifetime and a future lifetime, is love, and putting more love into your life, and that has a lot of ramifications.
Yes.
If you're basically your core is love, that makes a lot of impact in terms of how you are, what you do, how you treat people, how you treat your friends, how you treat your enemies, as you're talking about. So that is a real focus. And that seems to be kind of a key of a lot of his teachings as well.
Yes.
Yes. Right, so I want to jump into another area right now. So one of the things I know that you say is that that in our lives there are many physical bodies that we have, that we may use many physical bodies during one lifetime. What do
Yes.
you mean by that?
That is very interesting. It's a good point, because that shows that reincarnation is not just something that happens between lives. We reincarnate on a daily basis into our physical body. And why do I say that? Because it is a scientific fact that the physical matter of our body has a limited lifespan. Our cells have an average lifespan of 3 months. And once the cell is dead, it is replaced by new cells. There's a total, constant, huge replacement taking place all the time in our physical body. And after a year, all the physical matter has been replaced. And if we look at three different pictures of the same person, one when he or she was a child, one was he was 20, and one was he was 50, we are looking at three completely different bodies. Different physical bodies, because all the physical matter has been replaced with new physical matter, but still we're looking at the same person. And of course science is not interested in talking about this, because they think that the brain is the constant. The brain has to be somewhere. The constant of who we are has to be somewhere, and they say it's the brain. So they think the brain cells are not replaced, but they are. But this because who we really are is the field. It's the field that sits in the aura or the consciousness. So that is the reason why that we reincarnate also within one lifetime. It's not, there's nothing hocus pocus about it. It's just that our physical body is under constant process of renewal, and our spirit, who we really are, reincarnates into the constantly renewed physical matter.
Well, this is one of these things I've heard before, that because our cells are dying and they're rebuilding constantly over time. So the premise here is that, in essence, over time, our complete body is replaced multiple times. So all the cells, it's not the cells that we were born with are not, if you're 80 years old, they're not the same physical cells that you had, and it's changed. So it's an interesting concept. So your body's changing. So in essence, it's not like a complete transformation in a second, but your body over time is transforming and becoming a new body.
Especially the digestive tract, the mucous membrane, that it has a turnover that is just amazing. If you look it up on Google or Google it, you will see that it's millions of cells that are replaced every minute. It's just amazing.
Right. All right, so let's delve a little bit deeper into reincarnation. So we know this is something from early on I learned in terms of Hinduism and Buddhism. So this hundreds of millions of people have been thinking about, and part of their religious beliefs, reincarnation, transformation of souls for as I mentioned earlier, for millennium. So how does reincarnation take place? What happens? What's this process?
It is controlled by the law of attraction. Once the spirit leaves the physical body, it's attracted to a wavelength. What we have to understand is that the spiritual body vibrates on a specific wavelength, depending on the kind of thoughts that are in this spirit. So it has a specific wavelength. And with this wavelength, it's attracted to another wavelength. That's the law of attraction. Like wavelengths attract each other to a wavelength in the spiritual level, in the spiritual realm. And there, the spirit or the soul has a good long rest. It's been to the physical plane now for, let's say, 70, 80, 90 years, who knows how long, or it could have been less, of course. And after a good long rest, it realizes that it has to get back to the physical plane to continue with its evolution, because it cannot develop on the spiritual plane. The spiritual plane is a plane of rest. It's not a plane of work. So in order to get on, you have to go back to this physical plane. And then you have, again, the law of attraction at work, because you have a love-making couple, and this love-making couple is emanating during the act of lovemaking a specific wavelength. And you are sitting there in your spiritual body, you're discounted now, and you're sitting there in your spiritual body, but you still have the wavelength that defines who you are. And when you are then attracted to the wavelength of this lovemaking couple, but people that are physical cannot reach a level high enough to reach the spiritual plane, because their energy and their vibration is fairly low when you're on this physical plane. But during the build up to orgasm, you know that you reach a very high level, a high vibration. And it is this high vibration that is high enough to reach up to the spiritual plane and attract a spiritual being that is ready for reincarnation. But mind you, in order for the two to attract each other, they have to have a specific number of identical thought matter. There has to be enough common, there has to be enough similarity between them. So if you are a very loving person will be attracted to loving parents, a very hateful person will be attracted to hateful parents. Your talents will match the talents that the parents have to some extent, not all, but to some extent. So you will be attracted to parents that fit the bill. You know, they have to have enough similarity in order to be able to attract each other. So again, it's the law of attraction that takes on that sees to it that we attracted to the right parents. But as soon as the spiritual being joins the party, and it does at the moment of fertilization, the spiritual being takes over the whole process of embryogenesis. The egg cell and the sperm cell, they cannot do it alone. They don't have the know-how. They don't know. They are really ignorant. And this point has actually been confirmed by research at the Institute of Zoology of Oxford University. They know that new information is added. It's added at the moment of fertilization. New information is added to the ignorant zygote. The zygote is the fertilized egg. And then the incoming soul has all this knowledge, all the knowledge it has accumulated over many, many lives. It puts this knowledge to work. It picks and chooses in the genetic material put at its disposal by these parents, and it creates a new body completely in its own favor. In its own favor means it fits its bill. It fits what it has to come down to learn this time around. It fits its own mentality, its own characteristics, and the new child is born with this. It continues its development from exactly the point where it stopped the last time it died. So up to the spiritual plane it goes, and it comes back to the physical plane, and it continues with new parents that fit its present level of development, and it continues from there. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, when we look at siblings of the same sex, why aren't they alike? They have the same genetic material. What is it that makes them so different? It's because it's different spirits that inhabit different bodies, and these spirits have their own agendas, and they have come down to fulfill that agenda.
What's interesting, so the premise to extend it is almost, you just threw a lot of stuff out there. So the premise is your spirit or consciousness, when it's in this kind of the spiritual realm, eventually is going to look to get back in the physical plane. When someone is ready to basically fertilize, when they're at that point where a baby will be, an egg will be fertilized by a sperm, that the parents have a certain energy also, and they're attracting each other.
Yes.
And so basically, in essence, you're kind of choosing, if you're in the spirit realm, you're helping choose your parents.
Yes.
In essence. So you're literally or there's an attraction where you're kind of choosing each other, I guess, in a sense.
You choose your parents via the person you have become. It's not as if you have a catalog and looking.
Right. I got it.
Yeah, good.
All right. So what's interesting also is that at that point, this consciousness or spirit that's been moved, the premise is that also has a big influence in how the whole child is developed in the womb, outside the womb, throughout the whole process. An interesting concept. So let me delve into a couple of other areas. So one of the things you mentioned a couple of times is this concept of talents. You mentioned it earlier when you talk about a child prodigy who can play the piano or virtuoso.
Yeah.
Where do these talents, and you also mentioned that the talents are developed over time and kind of pass on. Where do our talents come from?
There's only one way to be good at something. And you know what that is?
I was always practice.
Practice.
I had to get to Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, exactly. Practice. And that's what we all do. Every time we reincarnate in all our physical lives, we practice something. And the more we practice, the better we become at that specific thing. Like I was born with a huge talent for cooking. And everybody asked, where does that come from? And I also had a very good talent for speaking foreign languages. And obviously, it's because it's things that I have practiced in former lives. And they had reached a certain level. And everything you do, every day you practice something. And because this practice is not lost, it is saved in the fate element as a talent kernel, is what Martinus calls it. And this talent kernel will grow. It can grow for each time you practice something. It grows a little bit, it grows a little bit. And at the end, when you have practiced it for several incarnations, it's become a huge tree, a huge talent. And you take that with you into your next life and that's how it is.
Okay.
And in that way also we evolve from being primitive and we unlearn certain things that we now realize are not good for us, like stealing, for instance. Once we realize that when you steal, you will be stolen from, because that's the law of karma, and you realize that, oh, that was not a good idea. And if you cheat, you will be cheated. If you're greedy, you will be exposed to greediness in your next life. And you have to realize that those are also talents that you learn. You learn to avoid these egoistic and primitive patterns of behavior. So in this way, you evolve and you become a better and better person.
All right. So we're talking about reincarnation, multiple lives. How many lives do we have? Is there a number, or until we reach this top potential, or how does this work?
Really, we start we start in mineral matter, and then we move into the plant kingdom, and we live in the plant kingdom for like millions of lives. And then we move on to the animal kingdom. And the carnivorous plant is like a species that is somewhere between the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. And we live as animals for also millions and millions of lives. And then eventually we move on to becoming like apes, primitive humans, like Neanderthals, or like, and then we move on to becoming Vikings, also very primitive. And that's not that long ago. It's only 1,000 years ago that men would go out and steal and rape and burn. That's all they thought about. And that's not that long ago. But the law of karma sees to it that you get back what you sow. So through the law of karma, we evolve, we learn from our mistakes, we suffer, we become more and more humanitarian, we become better, we become more intelligent, we become less egoistic, more altruistic. And so we're talking about an endless number of lives here. And as I said, we are eternal beings. So there's no end to it. There's no end to it.
Okay, I get it. I get the kind of the big picture over here. So we've covered a lot of material. I know we can't cover, there's a lot more depth in terms of the material and what you've written and Martinez. I mentioned the website a couple of times, newspiritualscience.com. Is there a particular book people should start with, where should people go next to get more information to delve deeper?
I think that I've written 2 books that I myself consider introductions. And the first one is Death is an Illusion. It was published in 2002, so it's been on the market for quite some time. And then I wrote an even easier introduction, which is called The Beginning is Near. And I called it The Beginning is Near because we're talking about a whole new world picture that the Martinez has introduced. And the beginning is near means that we are looking to a new world culture, as I said. And this also means that all the doom and gloom and all the worry about global warming and all that, we have to realize that we are living on a living being. The earth is a living being, a thinking, breathing, living being. And this living being controls its climate. It does everything. And Martinus clearly says that it will be warmer because the earth is preparing a better living conditions for us who are the equivalent to its brain cells. But that's a different story. So, and we will reach the real human kingdom in 3,000 years. There really is nothing to worry about. And the solar system is a living being. The galaxy is a living being. It's living beings inside living beings inside living beings. The universe is teeming with life. So there's life everywhere. Life everywhere. So it's a it's a big picture. It really is a very big picture. But I mean, if you really want to start with something simple, I would definitely recommend that you read my book, The Beginning is Near.
The beginning is near. Okay.
But I would also very much recommend this book, Reincarnation in a Nutshell, which is what we have been discussing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's
that
what
sounds simple enough. Reincarnation in a nutshell.
Yeah.
All right, we've covered a lot of stuff. We're just wrapping up over here. Any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Yes, I would just like to say that Martinus was not just anybody. He reincarnated on Earth to give us his world picture. When he was 30, he experienced 2 expansions of his consciousness, which left him with cosmic consciousness, which means he could see beyond the physical. He could see into the spiritual realm where everything has its origin. The physical world is a result of all the intelligence and logic and consciousness, the consciousness of the universe. We're living in a conscious universe. And he could see it, and it was based on this huge thing that he could suddenly see, that he created his world picture. And it consists of 10,000 pages of spiritual wisdom. It is enormous. It's a lifelong study. I've been studying it for 25 years, and I'm totally enthusiastic about it because it answers all the big questions and then some, and then some. And I mean, this is going to be foundation for the new world culture. Martinus clearly says that because his work is also a continuation of the mission of Christ. And it is also called the Third Testament. And I mean, this will provoke a lot of people, but once you have read it, once you have read the Martinus material, you do not doubt it. It is really, really mind-blowing. And that's what I would like to underline, and you can go to martinus.dk, the official website of the Martinus Institute. The Martinus Institute is in Denmark, in Copenhagen. And there's about 20 different languages that you can click on, and you can read his original work online to the extent that it has been translated. It's in the process of being translated, but obviously it's a huge job and it's a very difficult job. So, but this is not just, Martinus is not just some philosopher who has some ideas that he has thought out in his own head. No, he has it all downloaded from the higher level. And I mean, it is mind-blowing.
All right.
What can I say?
He covered a lot of material. Obviously, he was prolific, 10,000 pages, and it looks like you've done, I know you've spent almost a lifetime of really being able to take the core pieces and really share that with folks. So definitely recommend checking out your website. Elsa, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing this information with us. I want to thank everybody for listening, and make sure to check her information out. And I wish everybody great success in all areas of your life. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.